Hello to everyone who are waiting for End of Dragon. Hello and welcome to the Museum on Karma to Gold this year. This week I have a hidden achievement for you and it's... Hello everyone, there's a place in Gw2 where you can try your builds and train on a Golem dummy. The place is called Special Forces Training Area. With the June 7th, 2022 patch, now there is a new door you can get in training area directly from Lion's Arch. They also removed the squad requirement, so now you can just walk in.
What's this sculpture supposed to be?
Isn't it obvious? The lights are eyes.
We're pulling my tail.
Look at the eyes. Tilt your head a little.
Come on, I don't... Burn me, it's a stingray.
Also, with the new changes, you can now activate mounts in the training area. This place is called Special Forces Training Area and is actually a cave system beneath Lion's Arch. First thing you see here is bunch of consoles. These consoles are used to arrange boons on you and the conditions on the golem you're gonna work on. From this console you choose the auras and buffs, and from this console you choose the golem you want to work on. Now we need to talk about how to measure your performance. For this, what players use is benchmarks. Benchmark is a standard point of reference against which things may be compared according to the dictionary. So to see how you're doing, you want to compare yourself to someone else. So you can either find a player that releases benchmark videos and copy his way of measuring that class, or you can use websites majority of the guilds and players use. So what boons you should have on you or what conditions you need to have on the golem will have different answers depending on the class, spec and the people you're doing the content together. Because on the training area you're basically creating a boss fight scenario to see how much damage you do. So if you, let's say, take all the boons, auras and put all the conditions on the golem, that wouldn't be a realistic scenario because every squad has different boons and auras depending on the classes they have. One squad might have a druid healer and one other might have a mechanist or another have a firebrand for healing. All three of these would make a different scenario for training. Snowcrows is a website that shares benchmark videos regularly and used by many players and guilds. Many guilds and players accept the golem and the boon settings Snowcrows suggest as a standard. And if you are applying for a raid guild, for example, they may require for you to show that you're able to do at least X% of the Snowcrows benchmark, for example. If that's the case, you can just come to the Snowcrows website and use the usual settings under the benchmark. Have these boons on you and the conditions on the golem, but do not forget to check your specs specific page. As an example, some classes does not apply some specific debuffs, so you shouldn't include those debuffs on your golem. However, some guilds may want you to use specific settings, such as they might have a specific composition for when they are raiding. Let's say they never use a druid, so they may ask you to exclude druid auras and enhancements and include other enhancements you normally wouldn't. If you're training for yourself, I would still recommend using Snowcrows because to be able to see how good you're doing, you need something to take reference from. So you can compare your results with the benchmark videos here. As far as I know, the people who does these benchmark videos sometimes come up with numbers that might leave you in awe. And not all of these benchmark videos are realistically can be done in real life fights, but it definitely provides you with a number and a path for starters. You can start from this point and twist the build to your needs later. So benchmarks are always performed on an average size golem with 4 million health. For some classes though, to be able to do a benchmark try, you might need a bigger hitbox because some of their skills give more stable numbers on bigger hitboxes, such as the new viewer spec of the Elementalist. You can see from here if your spec requires a big or a small hitbox. So let's make an example try just to show you. Let me adjust my golem settings according to this video suggests. Now what I'll do is I'll compare myself to this benchmark. First of all, I definitely do not have 18 condition infusions. Let me see how many I have. Okay, I have 12. I'm using a different kind of food, but my utility is the same. Also, always consider these videos might have been done before the builds get nerfed or tweaked by ANET, so you can check the date of the video. Lately, there were some tweaks to the Spectre Thief, but I'm not much of a patch reader, so I don't know what they did to it. The only thing I know, it was a minor change depending on Spectre Thief's endgame performance, so it shouldn't affect my DPS that much. So with the differences with infusion, my food, and a possible nerf, I expect to make maybe 2k less than the benchmark video, but I usually cap at 30k, so the other 2 or 3k I'll lose because I can't do the same rotation perfectly and seamlessly. Unfortunately, there is no way of saving your golem and character configuration in this area indefinitely, but the configuration you used for the previous try is saved, so if you don't leave this instance, you can use the same settings again and again. You can consider taking a class to endgame content with your eyes closed if you do 70-80% of the benchmark. It's enough. And yes, you won't do your benchmark numbers on actual fights, but it will help you to have a strong guess for how much DPS you might actually do. There are also some concerns about Snowcrows benchmarks too. People rightfully have a concern for all kinds of benchmarks actually, for them being unrealistic to have an actual comparison, or another reason is people who does the benchmark videos doesn't always show everything that would affect the numbers, like their food, infusions, etc. So what you should take from this is to only trust benchmarks that shows you everything that would affect the numbers. For example, foods, item stats, infusions, runes, etc. So always check to see if they show these when you're taking a video or someone's benchmark as a reference if you want realistic comparison. Also, just a small note here, I really want to share my own opinion about. Some people are really against the benchmark videos, dummy training, meta builds, and they have their own reasons, which I understand. And the other side of this coin is people who expect everyone to do the benchmarks perfectly and be toxic about it. But for what it's worth, I think it depends on how you use all these possibilities you have. It's about playing more consciously. I want to be able to consciously give up a skill to have another skill on my utility bar. I want to know how much DPS loss it will cause me to trade it with a more survivability skill. These help players to enjoy the game better. If you're not going to become a pro player, being able to do some percentage of these recommended build benchmarks are good enough, and don't let people say otherwise. I strongly believe you can and should twist builds to suit yourself if the build has that flexibility. And to be able to come to the point you can twist an endgame build, you must start with the guides that are already there. And the point you can twist your build while you can carry your own weight in the endgame is the point you're done. You got what endgame is about. For that, Metabattle and Snowcrows are great jumping off points for people who want to know what good builds look like. Gw2 has its own DPS meter that works inside the Special Forces training area, so according to this DPS meter I did 31k, and according to the Arc DPS add-on I did 30k. I use the same settings with the Snowcrows for the Golem and myself. Snowcrows says 34k is the benchmark for this class, so by doing 30k I did more than 80% of the benchmark. There are also some add-ons I would recommend using because there's no way of seeing how good you performed as a support, which you can easily check with the add-on. The one I used is called ArcDPS. ArcDPS, unlike the game's own DPS meter, can be used to get more detailed information and also has a boon table which you can measure how supports perform as well. My next 2 videos will be about how to use ArcDPS and boon table for supports and DPS players. Some people are really skeptical about them, but using ArcDPS is actually safer than you think. One of the developers from the ANET answered the Gw2 players question in 2017 saying, "We have no problems with players using a third-party tool whose scope is only to collect and visualize combat data gathered directly from the game client." And the player asks, "Does that mean memory reading DPS readers are okay as long as they're only parsing combat data?" And the developer answers as yes. You can find it on the archive threads. I put the link down below. Of course, ANET might change their opinion about this add-on and say the opposite tomorrow, saying that we do not support any add-ons. But until then, ArcDPS is one of the unofficial but not seen as harmful add-ons, as you can see. Thank you for watching. If this guide was useful for you, you can always subscribe to support me in making of these guides. Have a nice day.